And now, from Grid Square Echo Mike 48, this is 100 Watts and a Wire.
Oh, Lord. Let me unmute myself. Oh, and you can hear the man laughing back there. This is brand new stuff, brand new technology. I got lights that aren't even on. Oh, Lord. Steve, take it. Take the wheel. Or Cal Ripken.
Oh, my God.
Cal Ripken, they wrote a song. It was a great song called Cal Ripken Take the Wheel. I think it was a country hit. So let's let Cal Ripken stay close.
Yep.
So this is a new technology day. And the chat did actually came back up too, which was cool. As soon as we went live, I could see the chat. Now I can see the chat. So that's real cool.
See it now.
Welcome everybody. It's Christian. My call sign's Kilo Zero Sierra Tango Hotel. And Steve, W7UDI, is here with me as well. I've got some other friends. This is a literal, I will get by with a little help from my friends today. New software, checking out a new software, and we'll go in this direction for sure. It comes with a learning curve. What are you on about? I got to drop you out of here? I need to do the show with Karen. I don't need you guys anymore. I swear I will pull her up here, and that'll be it. It'll be a whole different show.
I'm just
whatever
trying to
it is.
figure out where the chat works.
Okay.
And, wow, look at that. Let's see.
They're just flying across my... It is interesting. It's the first time up for us on this new software, and I like it a lot. It just comes with a learning curve. There you go. So all my chats are just popping up, and I suppose I could click. What happens if I click one? Like if I take the Steve... I don't know. I think I have to manually do it. You guys are going to be patient today because it's just kind of click to view 45 comments. It's just making me nervous, so I'm not going to do it. So you didn't miss anything today with the pre-show meet and greet. We're going to talk about projects, spring projects. Spring is here. It's great. And we've got some projects that we want to do. And I asked the Facebook group. I also asked our Twitter. What are you guys working on? And our guest today can chime in when we get to that too. But this is a really good time to start thinking about projects and what you want to do maybe before summer. I always liked this time of year and fall too, because you can see the leaves doing their thing, and if a limb does not quite put out some leaves, and I've had situations where I've been hanging over a dead limb, or I've had a dead limb right above my antenna.
Right above, yeah.
And I'm like, uh-oh. So spring can help you figure out, because I knew that would come down at some point, at least in the fall, and it was a good sign for me to go ahead and make a move. We've got some cool things coming up today. Hour 73 returns. Thanks for all the positive feedback for that, where everyday people are looking for ways to become more self-reliant, self-sufficient. We'll do that later in the hour with Don. Of course, 2 stories, and we may even hear a love story today. You are a softie like me. I like to hear the love stories, but we're supposed to hear from Rosa sometime in this hour to talk about her story a little bit. That'll be interesting. I don't want to give it away yet, why it's interesting, but they got married at like a place where you buy stuff. Is that
a cool place?
That's enough of that story. So I wonder, look, I can add this. It says I can add it. Did I add it? There you go. I don't know.
Yeah, you did. A little bubble there.
Okay, I don't see the little bubble. That's weird. But I can take it away. Oh, I see. All these things are popping up. Guys, this is going to be one of these, why am I here? Why did I wake up for this thing? But it should make for train wreck video.
So speaking of spring projects,
yes.
Here's Christian's spring project right here.
It's through the rest of this year, apparently.
Oh, man, it's going to be great.
So, yeah, we've got Ian's comment. This is fun. Okay, here's one that you can share. Oh, I don't see it. Oh, it's so dark. Are you reading that? It's really dark.
It's really dark, and it's...
Oh, yeah.
There you go.
Okay.
We have the font is black.
That's awful. Yeah, I'll have to change that. That's not good. We'll take that comment.
See, guys, we're just learning it. And
yeah. So this is a streaming software called Ecamm. It could easily be called E, pain in my Polish rear end too. But it's just that it's new. But it allows me room to grow with the production. I can do different things and move things around. But, these comments are coming in they're coming in dark. I don't know how you change that. Everybody is tuning out at this point. So let's go over. I think I'm just going to move this over to this side here so it definitely doesn't interfere. And I'll go through these with Steve as well. But on the YouTube channel, if you're watching, welcome. But this is the Facebook. I put out the question, we're like, what are you working on? And we did it for Twitter as well. And some of the answers that came in I can share with you. I got a like from Paul Brown. Look at that. That's cool. You never get likes from Paul. Just kidding. He's very supportive and has supported the show for a long time. So Ian, he says he didn't get that 160-meter vertical done in the fall, so now that's his spring project. We can't see Steve, but I'm going to figure out how to get him in this little bubble too. You're going to build a 160, aren't you, Steve?
Yeah, the double bazooka. But I have a couple of projects that I'm thinking of doing. And this got me thinking of, I was kind of going to push it to the fall, but now it's let me start working on it now where the field is, the ground is manageable. I have to dig some trenching. So
yeah.
I'd rather do it now when the ground is soft. Springtime.
Okay. Clay.
We'll get to that here in a minute.
Clay is, he's taking some CW. He's in the CW Academy, having a ball, dedicated himself some on-air QSOs before the end of May. So that's nice. Cool. And Scott with Vibroplex said they approve of this message. I guess so. They might be selling some new stuff to him. Here's Thor. Yeah. Antennas, and more antennas, grounding and bonding in the shack.
Yes, that's a good one.
Yeah, you've been wanting to talk about that too a little bit, and I think it's such a complicated one. That's probably going to be a special. That's thick and heavy.
I call it the third rail in ham radio because it just generates a lot of controversy, which really it isn't. There's one way to do it. The NEC is your guide, and there's a lot of information available that will help you do it. And it's not as hard as you think it is. It's just there's a lot of misconceptions, but it's really relatively easy. But the main thing is to do it right to protect your equipment. And that's what it's all about.
Okay, got
and your house.
Rhea says she's working on her towers and her antennas. Doug, he's working with CW Academy. Keith, need to mount my antenna on the house, hopefully high enough to clear the neighbor's house. Then run a cable down to wherever I decide to put the radio. The highest point of the roof is in the middle, but I apparently have a hip-style roof, so I have to make a pole and get creative. There's Philip. Philip is putting up a Carolina Wyndham for 160. It's a lot of wire, but man, is it a sexy band. And I had hoped to get on and do the Last Man Standing. We've had rain for the whole week. I've been unplugged for a lot of the week and haven't been really feeling great. But I'm thinking if I can get a nice day, it's supposed to rain today around 4 o'clock. If I can get a nice day tonight, if it would stop and not storm, I might try 160 for Last Man Standing. That might be kind of fun. And run as the bonus, like a bonus station on 160. I think it'd be fun. I don't know. It is crazy. There's a contest going on right now. First of all, Last Man Standing contest itself has 80 operators, and it's pile-ups. I mean, it's like... And now we've got a contest going. So,
yeah, the CQ Worldwide sideband version. So the band is, well, let me do this.
Yeah, you do that.
Bring this over here. And you see, that is 20 meters on the SDR receiver. So basically 150 all the way up to the band edge. It is nothing but packed. Contesters on 20 meters.
It's beautiful. It's a beautiful thing. Let's see.
It's going to be a busy weekend.
Spike's
I
doing
saw
some...
one there that's...
Oh, what'd you see?
Yeah. Oh, the build a vertical fan antenna for 2015
Okay.
and 10.
Yep.
So might want to I'm going to bring up a comment on that one. So in a little bit.
All right, Ricardo's doing some work. He lives in Paradise, also known as Florida, but boy, he's going to be heading into storm season here a little bit before expected. Let's see, he redid his 80-meter off-center fed. He changed his wire up. That's cool. Oh, Steve, yes, Steve, you gave him that.
Yeah, Okay, Ricardo, you're on, buddy. Let's do it.
What's Larry? Let's see. Okay. Let's see if we got another one here. Let's see. Oh, okay. Get his HF antenna up. Let me bump over to the twits. On the Twitter side, we asked the same question. There were some replies over here. Restoring transmit to 2-meter single sideband so they can go roving. Sean just waiting at the ground to thaw. Yep, maybe he's in the Northeast or maybe where you are, but you've had some nice days.
Oh, yeah. No, we've been doing good. He's up in Canada, Victor Alpha 5.
Oh, yeah.
So,
good eye, Steve. And we've got...
he wants to get in the satellite and wants to use that 9700. Good deal.
Com Academy is coming up. I think that's happening. Geez, I have to check the dates. But I feel like that's happening.
That'll be in April.
Oh, yeah, that's right. That's right.
Still going on.
Okay. All right, working on a 10, 17, 20, 30, 40 link dipole. I love the link dipole. I just love the link dipole. Kimberly, rebuilding a Meritron AL811. Good for you.
Yep.
Good for you. Raspberry Pi. Okay.
And
some photos.
RTL SDR, just kind of like what I'm doing but I'm using SDR Play.
Okay, beautiful. We'll get out of that. I knew the switching would be a little wonky, but the people are all here. They all got in. We got the people in. I think this will be a large part of my spring project. I did put up an antenna that Steve built. He built a 40-meter double bazooka, and mine had got a little weird at the connection point, and if there was a sealant in there, it had either corroded or popped loose or whatever, and it's a passageway for the bugs. I've had an antenna where the bugs just made their way in there. I guess got fried, fell over, ended up shorting it out. It was like a tunnel for the ants. They were going up the wire, the rope, the wire, and passing through. It's like, this is crazy, the craziest thing. And they shorted out the antenna. That's not the one. That was a 20-meter. This one that you built me. We should probably market it, man, because I think it could be expensive to make, though, because I think that you've took a little more care with the build than maybe some of the
that was
bigger...
my standard build, yeah. How about if we use it for giveaways?
You're not giving away my antenna, and I've put in so many orders now. No, I'm just kidding. But, yeah, I think the build quality, we should definitely do a video on the build quality and maybe in stages, because the one thing that weirds me out about this, and especially in the spring, all the rain, is that my double bazookas are, they've got this gap. They're very sensitive in the middle. When Steve made his, he reinforced that centerpiece, and it's kind of on lock. It's not going to move. It's not accessible to the elements. It's not accessible to ants and insects and things like that. I was like, dang, okay. This brother put together a nice one. So then I went and quickly ordered more. Give me some more of that. But it's a nice build, and I've had it on the air here in the last week. Maybe I'll put it on tomorrow during our net, just to see, get some things stored. What are you going to work out this spring as we get a little deeper into it for you?
I'm looking at going with a 43-foot vertical. And so 43-foot vertical is 5/8 wave on 20 meters. But a lot of people will use that antenna with a nice tuner. You can use it as a multi-band antenna. I think the guys have been working even all the way down to 160. But I'm mainly going to use it for this guy. Let me go back over there to the SDR receiver, because right now he gets a feed off the 101, an RX out. But
Okay.
what I want to do is I want to have a diversity antenna. And what do I mean by diversity? So most of our antennas are horizontal when we're operating here on HF, but how about a diversity antenna that's a vertical? And that's what I was going to put that into the SDR receiver, which I use as a pan adapter, and it was just going to give me a little bit different. It'll just give me some options. And sometimes when the wave is basically bounced off the ionosphere or multi hops through the ionosphere and the ground, it could change polarity. And so the idea is I might hear someone a little bit better on a vertically polarized antenna versus a horizontal. And then I also have the option. It's like, oh, now I have another transmit antenna. So that's the first spring project. That will be the easiest one so far. The next one will be a little more complicated.
Is this the one where you are waffling a little bit back and forth between putting up another tower?
Yep. So the other project is a Foursquare. I want to do a 40-meter Foursquare. So that's going to require a little more real estate, which I need to plan out that. And then also plan it out to try to minimize the interaction between the existing tower and towers and the new 43-foot antenna and everything else. So that's going to take a little bit of planning and trying to get either half wave or full wave lengths of separation. So there'll be a little bit to reduce the interaction between the antennas. So I'd like to do the tower with a 3-element 40-meter antenna, but that's a lot of tower and that's a lot of antenna. And I'm thinking the Foursquare might be the hot ticket.
Do you have people out there that will help you with that? Like, do you have a club of people that will help you if you're going to do concrete, or do you have to pretty much do it yourself because you're out there kind of in the sticks without trees?
I pretty much done it myself. But yeah, I have a group of club members and friends that would be more than willing to help.
Okay.
But these are pretty easy projects. There's going to be a lot of trenching. So,
yeah.
For the feeds and everything. So,
all right. Well, we got a few minutes here before we head off into the two stories, and we can talk about it a little bit later in the show too. But when spring comes, what pops into your mind is something that we should be double checking? For me, it's like taping up connectors, make sure the connector's at the switcher, because sometimes I do checks more there than at the antenna, of course. But is there anything that you think about? And if that's a fire call, you better take it.
It's okay. If I'd be looking at possibly your support ropes, if you, depending on, we all get a little frugal, so we'll go down to the local hardware store and, we threw up this antenna last fall and, oh crap, we didn't get any Masterant rope or anything. You just went down a local hardware store and grabbed some nylon or that yellow nylon rope, and you threw that up there. Through the course of winter, that kind of rubs and on the tree branches, and so you might want to maybe think about bringing that down for inspection. If you have a tower, it's a good time to start looking at, if you have especially a guide tower, start looking at your anchors, your guide tensions. Look at the tower base, make sure things are cleared, especially weep holes is clear. In the case of I have on my pier pin tower setup, so I have weep holes at the bottom. Always checking to make sure those are clear, just so the water can drain out. Check for especially down at the base, check for cracks on your tower legs. And so whatever antennas and support structures you're using, this would be a good time to start looking at that and double checking. For us here where I'm at, the wind starts picking up in the springtime, so it's already been blowing pretty good here. So but every place is different.
So basically you can't think of anything right off the top of your head?
No.
Okay. All right, good. So stand by, everybody. We're going to come back. We'll do 2 stories. Steve's going to come to the chat and hang out with you. Thanks for all your patience today because we're doing something a little different, and my switching skills will have to get a little bit sharper. So we'll come back to me, and in just a couple minutes, we will come back and we'll do 2 stories next on 100 Watts and a Wire. The ICOM 705 is your perfect QRP companion as you have base station features and functionality at the tip of your fingers, but it's in a portable package covering HF 6 meters, 2 meters, and 70 centimeters. This compact rig weighs in at 1 kilo or just over 2 pounds, with RF direct sampling for most of the HF band and IF sampling for frequencies above 25 megahertz. It's got that large 4.3-inch color touchscreen with live band scope and waterfall. And the perfect accessory for the IC705 is the optional backpack. It's the LC192. It has a special compartment for the IC705 and room for accessories for soda activations or just a day in the park. Visit icomamerica.com/amateur for more information on all ICOM radios. And Bioenno Power, offering the best performance lithium iron phosphate batteries for your ham radios. Visit bioennopower.com. That's BIOENNOPOWER.com. Or contact dealers nationwide.
More contacts, less Alpha Hotels. This is 100 Watts and a Wire.
All right. Let's see. Oh, am I muted? Nope, I'm okay. And my friends are muted, though, but that's okay. I'm going to bring them up. Hello, Karen, and I can keep Paul muted. Would be fine, right?
Let's keep Paul. Let's put him
yes,
on
ma'am.
echo. That was fun last night, hearing him twice. More Paul all the time.
I think he secretly liked it. And, just hearing his voice come back to himself again, and it washed over. And he was like, this isn't so bad.
Never seen him smile.
No,
he smiled. We like seeing him happy.
So we, with the new technology here that we're dealing with, we, and I'm going to bump you guys up just a little bit here. We had a little bit of looping going on, and it's some kind of wacky thing that I need to sort out. But we did a test yesterday.
Saying we're loopy?
You were extremely loopy, but only to yourself. That was the thing. I was like, nope, it doesn't seem local to me. You hear me fine. Must be you.
This must have been very amusing for you, Christian, watching us squirm like a bug.
No, I was
We
up.
just were like,
well, then Steve comes, and it's around 8:30 or so, and I said, yeah, let's test it again, and it gets to 11 o'clock Central Time. It's this mix minus problem. There's you got the wrong thing and the wrong thingy. Something's wrong, or not enough of something else. And it's feeding back to you, and I need to cut that off.
right.
Anyway, by like 11 o'clock, I was like, I gotta go, Steve, because my body will wake me up just at normal time every day. 6 is late. It's like, get up. It's trying to get up now. Anyway, that's not why you guys have come here, but thank you for your patience, everybody, as we get into the wacky switching of things. 2 stories. Each week we pick 2 stories where one you may have heard about or should know about, and one maybe not so common story. Karen, what'd you come up with this week?
Okay, well, before I talk about the gentleman behind me, who I'll duck down so everyone can see, I want to mention that Friedrichshafen will not be happening in Germany. They called that off right after we had gone to production. It did not make it into the newscast, but Friedrichshafen looks like they were real optimistic about having a gathering in person, and 2022, here we come. Not happening. So I'd like to talk about the guy behind me. I'm going to just... There he is.
There he is.
Yeah.
I can solo you out. Watch this. I'll solo you out,
Oh,
but I don't know
let's
how
do it.
well we'll ever get back. Let's see him again. Okay.
There we are.
Okay.
Okay.
All right. So if I can get us back.
If not, I'll just take
Yeah,
over
just
this
take
stuff.
over, please. I'm still here for you. Watch this. This will be fun.
You'll
Hopefully
put
not
the
too
echo
distracting.
back in. No, you'll put the echo back in just to get me.
No.
Okay.
I'm in the middle.
This was George Zeller. He will always be a renowned shortwave listener. He died in a house fire in his home in Cleveland on the 20th. Fire was electrical in nature, determined to be accidental. Well, we're all shortwave listeners. Even if we're ham radio operators, we're shortwave listeners. He happened to be, in the purest sense, a shortwave listener and a pirate radio enthusiast. He was known throughout. He was often seen at the Winter Shortwave Listening Festival in Pennsylvania. He hosted a radio forum there. He was, since the age of 16, a member of the North American Shortwave Listeners Association. He died at 71, so we're talking about a lifetime. He was amiable, he was gregarious, he was chatty, at least when it came to radio, certainly. His profession was as an economist, and my understanding is that, of course, he was a lot more reserved and scholarly in that regard. But people loved reading his columns in the Monitoring Times and other publications. He considered his greatest achievement, I went to his website to read a little more about George Zeller on George Zeller, and his greatest achievement was hearing on the air the FCC shut down a pirate broadcast while it was on the air. That's cool. He sent a card to confirm that, and the FCC was able to send him something back confirming it. So quite an achievement for those of us who have taken it a step further from shortwave listening to shortwave transmitting. We owe gratitude to him, and we have respect for him, and we're sorry he's gone, especially the way he died.
Yeah, thoughts with his family for sure. Paul, talk a little bit about shortwave listening and this situation.
Yeah, that's what got me started. My father was always kind of interested in hearing from other countries, so he bought us a little portable transistor shortwave receiver, multi-band thing, and so we would sit there and we would listen, and it was fun. We'd listen to at the time it was Radio Peking, now Radio Beijing, Radio Moscow, all those different countries, and we'd listen and we'd send in the reports, and occasionally we'd get back a QSL card and propaganda from the station. One that was fascinating was the first report we got from Radio Peking was before there was a major shift in political things in the country, and it was all like traditional Chinese art, but it was all propaganda. It was little teenage girls and flowers and trees and stuff, but holding machine guns and wearing uniforms and all that. And then the following report we got was after that, and we got a calendar and everything and it had shifted completely back to Chinese culture and art and everything, and not propaganda. So that was a fascinating thing to see. So shortwave listening was what got me interested. I tuned down occasionally to those areas where hams lived, and I would hear things, and that kind of drove me into finding out more about amateur radio. So, I mean, shortwave listening, there's not as many stations today as there are, and because of the internet, you don't have to fight through static to hear something from another country. You just go to their website. But it's still interesting to hear, because you'll hear the different music, you'll hear the commentary. Sometimes it's fun to hear news from an outside source, to hear a perspective on us from other people outside of our country.
Yeah, so I got a report in just to let you know. We are just feeding your audio through one channel, so we'll work on that.
Okay.
That's okay. We'll get it sorted out. Paul, what's
well, just everybody lean this way a little bit, and it'll work better.
Yeah, that does work better.
Okay.
I only need one of these anyway. He said it's only in the right channel. For me, you're in my left, so
That's weird.
If he
All
would
right,
just
we'll
send me
work
those headphones, I'd put them together and we'd be all right. We'll work on it.
Yeah.
Story
All
number
right,
2, what did you find?
My story is about Novice Rig Roundup. And it's a thing that is near to my heart because I started, got licensed in 77, so I started with the novice license for the younger among the crowd that start out at technician. There used to be a level below that. And you would pass that exam. It was 5-word a minute code and the basic theory, and you'd get to use that license for a year. And in that year, you had to study. You had to upgrade to either technician, which was the general level theory without the code, or general, which was 13 words code and the theory. But your radios were simpler, and my first station, the radio behind me, was a DX100B Heathkit AM CW transmitter. Weighs about 60 pounds, so it's a solid boat anchor. And that one I bought, and then a friend of mine lent me his Knight R100A receiver, which then I built a TR switch to go between them, and I built a paddle and all that. And that was my station for my first year until I passed my general and got my 520S. So the Novice Rig Roundup, they have a regular event every Monday night. Actually, it's every Monday. It says, according to the website, it says every Monday in the U.S. from sunup on the East Coast to midnight on the West Coast. And they give some recommended frequencies where you get on, and it's just to talk about these old beginner radios. And if you have them, by all means, use them to get on and talk with them, or work CW. And it's just all about celebrating the old rigs that a lot of us started out with. And it's real simple. If you just go to novicerigroundup.org, you can find out all kinds of information about it.
You know what? If you jiggle, you're coming in and out. There's like a little your quarter inch or your XLR or something in your board. Seems like it came in and it dipped back out.
Do we want to see him jiggle? I don't think we want to see him jiggle.
Let's put it up to the people. No, they said no.
It's got to be a software thing because I'm hardwired in with balanced XLRs all the way through. So.
Yeah, it seemed like it was trying to pass through. You got a little thing. We're going to figure it out, but we're ham, so we're not tripping on this audio thing. But it's like when you get a weird TRS connection and it wants to be in a different spot. Oh, no. It's there, but it's not. All right, well. There you go. It's a beautiful radio, by the way. I wish. Do you still have it or one like it?
No, I sold it. I sold it to a friend of mine when I got the 520, and I didn't need at the time. I didn't think I need because I gave the R100 back to the guy who lent it to me, and I didn't think I needed to hang on to it. So I sold it or traded it to somebody, and now I kind of wish I still had it. But the ones that I see now at Hamfests look pretty beat up, and it's like, nah, I really don't need to lug a 70-pound radio back to try to clean it up and work on it. So
I understand. Yeah, the older we get, the boat anchors become less, but they're so gorgeous. I have my dad's old Hammerlin, and it's a mess, but it's more of a sentimental piece for me. I just have it.
Exactly.
But getting it here was just around to the back of the house was enough.
Yeah.
Like, good grief. But anyway, well, thank you guys. I appreciate you coming and putting up with the technical, the things of the new stuff and other things and all that kind of stuff. And thanks for bringing the stories. If you guys want to comment on any of these stories, please do so on our YouTube channel, and we will get back to you and bring it up and explore more conversation together. My thanks to Karen and to Paul, my brother and sister from the Amateur Radio Newsline side. Thank you, guys. Yes?
I have one quick comment.
Okay,
so now that audio thing is not just me, because right there, both of you switched between my ears. So we'll work it out. Anyhow, I got an email this morning.
it's still him, isn't it? It's in his
We're
ear.
inside his head. We're inside his head, Christian, and we're not leaving.
Yes.
Fine, it's me. Okay, I got an email this morning from someone who said he had heard me on a Newsline a couple of times, and all of a sudden it rang a bell as to where he knew me from. And he's one of the kids that was my age that was a part of our club at the Marissa Amateur Radio Club down there in
Oh,
Marissa.
wow.
And he was one of the ones. We all kind of got our novice licenses together, and we all kind of got our generals together. So all of a sudden this morning, I get an email out of my past from one of the people from back at that time. That's
cool.
the one thing you got to love about the internet is that it, even though it's kind of dampened
The internet.
ham radio a bit, it does open up things like that, where we get to reconnect with people from out of nowhere. So
maybe we
thanks,
bring
Dave.
that person, we bring Dave and you on, and then we share that story too, because that's a cool story.
That is.
See, let's
That
do that.
is really neat.
That'll be fun. Thank you both, and we'll catch up with you again soon. 7-3, guys.
Okay, 7-3.
Bye. Let's take a minute to talk about what I feel is the most beneficial deal in ham radio today. It's when you become a sustaining member of 100 Watts and a Wire. Here's how it works. When you donate $25 or more, you will become a sustaining member for a year. And during that year, you get discounts from participating businesses. It's a win-win-win. The show gets your support, you get the discounts, a little more money in your pocket for your next project, and those businesses can earn your trust. Visit 100wattsandawire.com, click the Sustaining Membership tab to learn how you can support the content you enjoy. And thanks. Okay, Steve-O, here we go. Now,
All right. Here we go.
how about that Paul? Everybody, I probably did something wrong on his, it's probably wacky. But he was in one
yeah,
channel.
but-
No, it's an audio week, man. It's just one of
He
those
was in
things.
my left. Everyone's Paul was saying that he was in his right, and but
Right. It's just
we're in his head. We're going both sides in Paul's head.
Let's see. We have a guest here. Let me see if this is going to work. I want to see if we can connect with Rosa here. Hey, Rosa, can you hear us? Let's see.
Yes, we can hear you.
Yay! We actually did it. Thanks for coming on. I'm sorry you were on hold for so long. I was afraid when I went to the phone, it would just shoot you somewhere else. So you're in. How are you?
Hi, sure,
Rosa
Marty.
and Marty?
Oh,
Yeah.
good morning, Christian and Steve.
Well, we brought you
Hi.
here because you've got one of these great feel-good ham radio stories, and I shouldn't tell it. I know of the story. There's people that know of your story. They're like, oh yeah, did you know this and this? I'm like, really? So here you are. Let's give you some time to talk about it.
So I guess the question is that you're asking why we got married at HRO.
See, we didn't even know that now. No, it's tell me how this happened.
Oh man, you needed to save that. You needed to build that one up. How did you guys meet?
Well, what happened was Rose came home from a CERT meeting one day and said, we're going to be ham radio operators.
Love
Because
that.
if there's a disaster, nobody's going to be talking but ham radio operators.
Mhm.
So she came home one day and handed me a Bofang and said, figure out how to run this. That's when I realized that I was programming and antennas and she was the equipment manager. So we go to HRO, ask about this Bofang, and they don't want to know anything about it. So we meet Billy Bob and start talking, and we end up with an FT60. So we end up going
Nice.
in and out of HRO while we're getting our license and all that. And then we start going on Saturday mornings, and a lot of ham radio operators hang out at HRO on Saturday morning. So we start hanging out there. So we become a regular on Saturday morning for coffee and donuts, sitting around BSing, talking radio, saving the world. So we become a fixture at ham radio. So while all that's going on, we also become Racy's members. And our friend, Bill Lovelace at Racy's, is always asking us, hey, when are you guys going to get married? You guys should get married. You know, he didn't like us living in sin, I guess. So we're at a ham radio event with the Orange County here, with the Racy's people. And we're talking about getting married again. I don't know how it came up. And I think Rosa said, we should get married at Ham Radio Outlet. We all laughed, ha, ha, ha. Meanwhile, Bill goes nuts. He thinks it's the greatest thing in the world. So that was the start of it. Next thing I know, Bill's telling us, oh, Janet, the manager at HRO, she thinks it's a great idea, blah, blah. Well, the next thing you know, we're getting married at Ham Radio Outlet. And if Bill gets a hold of Josh, on Ham Radio Crash Course, talks him into streaming it live on YouTube, so you can see it live on YouTube if you want. But it was just a lot of fun. We did it on HDs, the whole ceremony. So it was pretty fun.
So Rosa, talk to us a little bit about your emergency communication interest and falling in love with this guy.
Well, falling in love with this guy, I'll do that at the end. But yeah, no,
she hasn't quite fallen in love with him yet. We'll wait a while.
And so
it's a work in progress.
So I saw an ad about this, about earthquake survival and all that stuff, right? So I decided to go ahead and give him a call. So I registered, and I thought to myself, I say, you know what? I need to start learning how to do CPRs and all this radio communications and all that stuff. So I got him involved. And so we ended up, whatever I joined up, he joined up with me. So we're into CERT, we're into CAP races, we're into WARA?
The radio club?
The radio club, and some other stuff too. So it's been fun, and I like it. Now, back to the getting married part. It hasn't changed. It's the same thing, though. He's him, and it's not going to change. So when we got married at HRO, I didn't really see that much difference, except he's getting bossier every time.
Oh,
that's
dear.
the only thing.
Marty.
Yeah,
Marty,
we were together for 10 or 11 years before we got married. Marriage, we talked about it, but it really wasn't, it wasn't high on our priority list. But Bill Lovelace, he's kind of a Christian, and, you wouldn't know it, but he would always ask a couple times a year, hey, when you getting married? When you getting married? And when we said HRO, he just took the ball and took off running. And him, Bill Lovelace and Janet and all the guys at HRO, they all jumped on board. And it was just, all Rose and I had to do was show up.
Which HRO was it?
It was fun.
Which HRO was it in California?
It's the one in Anaheim.
Okay.
The bad thing is we live 1.1 miles away from HRO. And I know a lot of guys are going, oh, man, that would be great. I could just whip over there and pick something. Well, it's not so great. Not when you watch the Radio Junkie.
Or when I tell them, hey, I'm going to be a little bit late, and I kind of tell Billy Bob, hey, open the door for me. I got to go get something.
See, I think the people watching and listening think that you might just be the perfect wife, Rosa, for real.
Oh.
She's got to be perfect.
No,
I am.
No. You.
I wish I could drop him out, Steve. Wife. That's the thing. I just want to talk to her now, Marty. You can leave.
Having a wife as a ham radio operator is a great thing.
Yes,
but
it
here's
is.
What she does.
Stop there. Okay, he's not going to do it, Steve.
The day that the FT3 came out at the Tokyo Ham Fest, I didn't know it. She walks in the door from work with the picture on her phone. Go to HRO and order me this radio.
I see nothing wrong with this.
I go to HRO and they go, hey, that isn't even the computer yet. We can't order that. So we pre-order it, and I go in there for something else a couple of days ago, and I go, hey, did you ever figure out how much that radio is going to be? And they go, hey, that thing's going to be like $550 or something. I'm going, holy smoke, for a handheld? So Rose comes home from work, and I tell her, hey, that radio you ordered, it's like $550. And I'm expecting oh my gosh, I had no idea it was going to be that much. No, you know what I get? When does it get here?
Yep.
You know,
on my word, I'm worth that $500, right, Marty? Remember? Yes.
You know.
Marty, there
That's
is
like-
one saying you got to remember: happy wife, happy life.
Oh yeah, she's happy. I hope. It's like this Christmas. I was talking about a pair of. What was that?
Go on.
So I was talking about getting a set of Heil headphones, right? And usually I just mention something and it shows up. So she tells me one day, hey, go to HRO. They got something for you there. I'm thinking she bought a pair of Heil headphones. So I go in there and I see Billy Bob.
It was Bob Heil himself was there.
But no, Billy Bob was my best man at the wedding who works at HRO. Has become a great friend. So I go in there and I go, hey, Rose says there's something here I'm supposed to pick up. And he's going, well, she's got $35 on account and all this stuff. And, well, yeah, I don't know. She said I'm supposed to pick something up for Christmas. He doesn't believe me. He calls Rose. Hey, is it okay to give it to him? Yeah, okay. So he goes, yeah, it's back here in the back. It's not a pair of Heil headphones. It's an FTDX 101.
Nice.
That's what she buys for Christmas.
I think,
nice.
I just want to let you know, I think you have the perfect woman. And that's all I'm going to say. So, congratulations. See?
Yeah.
I mean, you would think. Be careful, man. Be careful. Rosa, one more question for you, Rosa. Go ahead, Marty.
Yeah, I was going to say, if you watch the wedding video on YouTube, when Rose is repeating her vows and they're going, until death do you part, you might not be able to hear it in the video, but everybody starts laughing. Because when Rose says that, the next thing she says is, well, how long is that going to take?
Hey,
and who officiated the wedding?
Oh, it was Bill Lovelace, who was our commander at Racey's.
Okay.
You know, so we met him at Field Day, and we ended up joining Racey's. And, you know, he was the one that kept asking about us when we were going to get married and stuff. But he was the one who officiated the wedding.
Well, nice. I wish you many more years, and we'll come on and talk about your MCOM interest too. Speaking of which, we're getting ready to head into Hour 73, which is a new segment about this, and I think it's right up your alley for the emergency communications. Come back and talk to us again. Thank you for all the support. You guys are always around in the chats, and I know you woke up early looking for the meet and greet and was like this, huh? Where is it? I woke up for this. It's not here. But working on some new tech and needed a little bit of more prep time. But long may you run, guys. I hope you're happy together for a long, long time. 73 for now, okay?
Thank
73.
You.
Thank you.
73.
Thank you, guys. Appreciate it.
All right. We will take a break, come back with Hour 73 next.
LDG Electronics provides state-of-the-art antenna tuners for every amateur need, from QRP to QRO, fixed station, portable and remote, matching your radio to your antenna using our lightning-fast proprietary tuning algorithms. LDG is a family-owned and operated company dedicated to bringing innovative, quality products to the amateur market. Our focus is on anticipating and meeting our customers' needs and providing them with world-class support as they install and use our products. All LDG products carry a full 2-year warranty that is fully transferable when you sell it, with no paperwork required. Support is only a phone call or email away. We're always here to help you. Visit us on the web at ldgelectronics.com.
Okie dokie, friends. Let's see if we can take care of this and do a little bit of Hour 73. This is a feature that used to be a podcast here. And bring up my brother here. I think we can do it. Now I just got to get that image off the screen. Where did it go? Okay, there we are. Good day, sir. Beautiful. What a beautiful. I wish Pastor Joe, I hope he's watching this. What a beautiful sweatshirt you have. It says Baltimore, and it looks like it's got the Oriole bird. Let me unmute you there. Good morning, Don. Beautiful stuff.
Hey, good morning. I'm not quite sure how I follow Rosa and Marty. If they walk into a ham radio outlet and get married, every time I walk in there, I'm pending divorce.
That's why I think she's perfect. This is why I think that she's probably the perfect lady. That, it's no big deal.
Fantastic story.
No big deal. And you go to HRO and stream it out. Let's stream it out. It's good. I'm glad to finally have them back because they're always here and supporting. You know, they're here in the chat and keeping things going. So appreciate that. A lot of good response from last week's kind of kickoff for the on 100 Watts and Wire with Hour 73. We're all trained, at least taught to prepare for the first 72 hours. Don and I are trying to take it, what happens next? Let's go beyond. We're not going to forget about the first 72 because we need to be sharp on those things as well. But Hour 73 is, let's look a little bit beyond that. Where do you want to go today, Lieutenant Don?
Well, I'll say we had a great conversation about the clubs last week, what your club can do for the jurisdiction or the city you live in, whatever it is. And they're all small examples. Everyone seems to fall into this trap that you have to save the world right away, but there are some small things those clubs can do to really be a true asset to the responders. So whether it's the contests that already exist that we leveraged, we did some park and rides on the air to figure out where our repeaters reach. Most recently, we built some tape measure Yagis, and we've been doing some fox hunts. So, stuff like that comes into play when you're looking at search and rescue and everything else out there that you can do. So, you can do the radio-related stuff as a club, stuff in the quotes, but still be able to build capability and capacity. The important metric and all that in my mind is making sure you're meeting what your jurisdiction needs. So those are the folks that matter. Doesn't have to be a specific framework pushed by any particular organization, and I'll die on that hill. Whatever works for the jurisdiction will work. But one of the things we started to get into, and in my mind, personally, this was driven a little bit about what happened in Texas, and that's what are my personal capabilities. So what can I do at home? And you and I talked about this a little bit. Where do you start? Do you start with food? Do you start with water? Do you start with power? So I think the problem is you can start a bunch of different ways, but I started to look at power, and that was one of my spring things. You mentioned the spring list that everyone else is working on. It was power for me.
And I think that's probably one of the first things we talk about Texas, and that was the main thing, the deal with their grid going completely, and how you get there and all the things that are wrapped up and why these choices were made will have to be sorted out by a different set of people here. But the normal citizen, this is the middle of winter and power is everything. And it has to be one of the things that we don't think about. Power goes out at your house. You think, it'll come back on. I've had a couple of 20 some hour times, but never like extended periods without power. So you needed to cook, you needed to do almost everything, and we need to think about that. What are some of the things that went through your head when you heard about that situation with their grid?
Yeah, so I think you take a look at where you are, and you mentioned it. Are you in an area that's prone to outages? Is there a likelihood that you're going to be out for 3, 4, or 5 days? I think equally as important do you have any critical systems at home? Do you have a mom that lives with you that's on dialysis? Do you have certain medication that you need to keep cold? Those are the things that are really going to drive your need for power. What's your tolerance? So I'll use an example of when my wife and I lived in Baltimore City before we moved out to the burbs. One of the feeders to the block blew up under the street, and we were out without power for probably 21 to 23 hours. Not a long time, but some of my neighbors already are like, oh my gosh, what do we do? We're going to have to find a hotel. And for us, it was city camping. We opened the windows. We sat out on the front stoops, that Baltimore thing that you're familiar with. Mm-hmm. and we had a good time with it. But some folks don't have the tolerance for being without power, and it also depends where you live, what your climate's like. So we have plenty of propane on hand for the grill. We've got a fire pit, so I can cook if I have to. But it's not an easy decision. You know, I'm looking at my rig over here, or my station, and I've got a Bioenno battery sitting in a box, and you know, I keep it charged. I cycle it on and off, and I know that if I had to transmit, I could get probably 20 to 24 hours out of it, depending on my cycle. But if you're stuck longer than that, you know, what do you do? So, you know, Steve and I were having this conversation, I think, before we started. He spoke with someone in Texas that had a whole house, and that's quite an investment. So, you know, looking at what you need to power and when, what that load is, and then how do you provide that load and the logistics of all that. Even if you've got a generator, you've still got to fuel it. So there's a lot of things that I think you have to map out when you're looking at how you power.
And what part of the element is, okay, so you've thought about it in a hypothetical situation. You've thought about this. You are prepared. You were camping in your mind as that you were off, but there was a comfort level knowing that what you had reserves, you had your stuff. But talk about what happens when everyone around you does not, and it becomes there is no perfect disaster. We talked about that last week. Talk about the people who don't or didn't, and that element, how that kind of factors into your new situation.
Well, that was, I think, a little bit of a different example because we were all stacked up on one another, living in the same block. So some of them headed to relatives' houses. Some of them rented a hotel room for the night. It was a day without power. So those of us that hung back, sat out front, drank, and made fun of the people that had to go leave because they couldn't put up with not having power for less than a day. Out in the suburbs, it's a little bit different. So we are sufficient. We're able to cook, as I mentioned. Most of my neighbors are that way. But at the end of the day, you still need to figure out how far can you get with what you have. And you mentioned fuel and supplies and stuff like that. So if this is a regional outage where you're battling all of your neighbors who use the same fuel for their generators, then you might be stuck or you might find yourself short. One of the biggest challenges is if there's a regional outage that's affecting power and you rely upon gasoline to run your generator, most of the gas stations will be unable to pump that gasoline that you need. So kind of planning out the what ifs and where I am after, say, 12 hours, where I am after a day, where I am after 3 days into that hour 73 and beyond.
Yeah, we'll probably have to get into talking about community. And in the city, it's a lot different than out in the county like you talk about, or you're out with less people around. I've got a couple of older neighbors that are around here that, so the community aspect of who you trust, who's in your network, who do you take care of? It seems like you start at home first. Say you've got nothing and you heard this conversation we're having today and you're thinking, yeah, man, that sounded pretty scary. Where do you start here? Do you go for being friendly with your neighbors to start, which is a good practice anyway, but when you think, okay, I need to start looking at a generator, where do you begin at home?
So two different questions there. The neighbors, and I think we'll end up talking about this at length at some point. I don't think you can do any of this in a vacuum either. I mentioned that last week about the clubs. You're going to have to rely on your neighbors at some point. There are folks out there that preach the lone wolf approach, or those folks that have invested millions of dollars in the doomsday bunker that can last for the next 17 years. And God bless that. I don't have that capacity, right? So to a certain extent, I'm going to have to rely upon my neighbors, however that plays out. In terms of starting, where do you start with the generator? I think the question is, what do you need from the generator? So whether you're doing a load assessment on your house, so the heat pump draws this many kilowatt hour power draw for the stove, power draw for whatever you need to function in your house, and then you have to size your generator. In my case, I don't have a generator that'll power the whole house. it's something we talked about at some point, but it's just not a priority for me right now. I have a smaller Honda generator that runs clean, provides a good sine wave, so some of my critical systems can function on it well. But if I had to keep things cold or cook, I would be rotating from appliance to appliance to keep it going. And we're okay with that. We figured that that's what works. But I think at the end of the day, you figure out what you need, what that power draw is, and then how you source that. So are you buying the generator that is that big to provide that power demand? Can get complicated if you're talking about how you're tying in transfer switches, utility disconnects. So like everything else, we can go down that path.
And I think it's so personal too. I mean, we just met a couple who are, I think there's a lot of teasing and interplay with their life, but maybe their priorities are different. My wife and I may have a set of needs. You think about your food, your refrigeration. I'm thinking about I'm going to need 2 of these pronto. So it all factors into exactly what you're using, how much you're drawing, and that can be complicated, trying to figure out what to buy. And generators really aren't a cheap thing. I can get by with a little bit of, my radios are powered with the battery. I can do battery and solar. That combination will be fun to talk about as we go. But generators, man, I'm an idiot with generators. I asked you that question trying to figure out which one I should go buy. And I know it's, you want to keep your food, you want to keep your food longer and don't open the refrigerator doors. That's the kind of thing that we're taught when the power goes out. But is there a certain size, that would kind of manage some of your food needs first?
Yeah, so I mean, I would argue that you can get a lot of mileage out of a 5,000 watt generator that'll cover certainly fridge, freezer, microwave. Certainly not going to cover a 240 volt appliance that has a huge power draw well.
Can't run your amp.
Yeah, so there's that. So you might not have as much luck with the stove, the dryer, the HVAC, depending on what your system is. Heat pumps are pretty efficient, but they can be power hogs too. So, again, and I think it was, let me look up here, I think it was Paul made a comment about being out of power for 10 days during Sandy. Mm-hmm. And that's a tough plow. It's one thing to be in the woods without power for 2 days when you're camping. It's a second thing to be home for 10 days and trying to sustain a family without power. So a lot of the big companies, the reputable companies, have tools on their sites that allow you to project what your load might be depending on what you need to run. But for those of us, and let's draw it back to the ham radio discussion for a second. Not only is the size and the power rating important, but things like startup power, the surge capacity of it. If you're starting a load that has a motor, a huge inductive load that's got that really big initial power draw, or the quality of the power that you're getting out of the generator. Some of them don't produce as clean of a sine wave as others, and that can cause problems with sensitive electronics. So I think you have to start with what you need when the power is out and then work your way backwards to the generator.
Okay. Well, then here's another trick question for you. Sometimes you're thrown into these problems, and then you can figure them out as you're going in real time. You get the benefit and going, when we were out for 24 hours, we needed this, we didn't have that. Say you've never had that situation, and you're at a starting point. Say I'm looking to buy a new generator. You just go with your basic needs. Your starting point is 0. You want to cover, I think you said the 5,000 watt. Is that what you said?
Yeah, so I think, and again, your mileage is going to vary. I think you can get far in life with a 5,000 watt generator, but you have to do that analysis of what you need to power. And I'll say it again, if it's something that has a surge on startup, so something that's got a motor, so if it's your furnace blower or something like that, and I think someone even made a comment about that as well. Looks like Jeff did. So if you're starting up, say you have a natural gas fed furnace, so you don't necessarily have a huge power draw with that when it's running, but you have a little bit of a surge when that thing starts up because of the inductive load of the motor. So you have to account for that. Mm-hmm. You asked me where I start. I think I am starting with Paul and asking him how his 10 days went during Sandy. Like how do you deal with that? What did you find that you needed in day 4, 5, and 6 that you didn't think you needed in days 1, 2, or 3? I think there are a lot of lessons learned out there. I'll be curious to see where some of this discussion goes moving forward as well. Sometimes you got to learn from the mistakes that other folks make.
Yeah, I encourage you guys to put it in the, actually comment below. When the video comes out, put your comments in, because the chats just kind of go up and, you know, you may not see those, but putting the comments in and kind of continue this discussion. And one final point, I've got young children, and I know you do as well. So when the sun goes down, there's different needs for wherever you are in your life, you know, who's in your house and that kind of thing. So that may guide you as well with picking out those specifics, because kids don't think about power's out. What's that mean? You know, but you can go out and play if the season's right. You come in and then the sun goes down and you're out, but I guess we just go to sleep now. So yeah, I guess the point being is there's different things for everybody, different needs for where you are in your life. So hopefully we've broached it. What did we miss? Did we miss anything that you wanted to get to?
Well, I think at some point we're going to start talking about renewable energy, batteries, solar, wind. Not today, but I'm sure we'll have time to talk about all of the innovative ways that you can bridge that gap, because the generator is just a small piece of that.
Yeah.
Your emergency power platform can very well be the solar cells on your roof that are charging a bank of batteries. So I think there's going to be some good discussion about that in terms of what people are doing, what they have, and how they did that assessment, how they realized what was important, what maybe wasn't important, or if they just decided, you know what, I want to live like I do when the power's on, so I'm going to buy a whole house generator. So
yeah, and if you're not in the ballpark, because generators really aren't cheap, you know, that's not something you can just pop on. You might be able to go ahead and do whatever your finances say, but maybe we start to talk a little bit about also, you know, alternative heat sources. You know, out here in the country, We're out here swinging axes and getting, you know, at least that part of the heat sorted out. You know, it's so thick and heavy. This is why we wanted to do this from the start. There's so much that we can talk about, but it's important to have you guys chime in too. Tell us where you are, geography, that's the right word, where you are, what you're around. So it's cool. Well, thank you for that, sir. I hope we got everything out that we wanted to get to today, and invite everybody to kind of join the conversation. And we'll bring those comments in as we go too. All right, Don, enjoy your weekend. Great. Pastor Joe approved. Pastor Joe is a Red Sox fan. And I mean, it's so hard. It's really hard. And then when I pray, I say, Cal Ripken bobblehead, please help give me the strength to deal with Pastor Joe and his Red Sox thing. Sad. It's sad. Just do this real quick. Sit up. Yeah. Okay, it looks great. Yeah, it looks great. All right, Don. Thanks so much, man. We'll have you back again real soon. Hopefully next week we'll talk about the next layer or next issue real soon.
Sounds good. 73, my friend.
73. Take care. All right, we'll take a quick break here. Come back and take your questions next.
Brothers and sisters, let's talk about the 100-watt ID. Very easy to get. None of this costs you a thing. But it is fun to have your own, and here's how you get it. Visit 100wattsandawire.com. Click the Gathering tab. Here you give us your name, your call sign, and your email address. Very simply put, an app will sequentially issue your ID, and a very busy human will send you that ID through the email. Then you can use it during our nets and operating events, share it with your friends, do whatever you like. But that is how you get it. Visit 100wattsandawire.com and click the Gathering page. Now let's get back to the show.
All right, this is the time of the show. Let me bring Steve on in here. And got you back. Got to unmute you. This is where we take some of your questions. Each week people submit them through the chats. They may send them through email. However you want to send your questions, we can do that, but this is the portion of the show where we address this. So there's so much. Go ahead,
got
Steve.
a comment in from the chat from Pastor Joe.
He's so
requesting
fast.
Equal time. So, Pastor Joe, an offering, a donation in the offering plate can help. Just saying.
Cal Ripken bobblehead. Should we? Look at that, so handsome. Should we give equal time?
He's saying no. No, not the Red Sox guy.
That's like I don't know. Just having fun. Boy, the conversations about power are so tricky. As a man who works for the utility, and some people are geared.
Yeah, so years ago, when living on the west side of the Cascade Mountain Range, there was working for the utility. I was out for days, and I had young kids, and they didn't understand, why is the lights out, Dad? Why can't I watch this or that? And how come you're not here? That freaked them out. So you got to, and so set up things to work, kind of keep life as normal as possible, but at least for the kids. But Don made a perfect point. Assess what you have, what you need, and the family needs, and go from there. And keep it simple, because maybe you know how to get start the generator or this or that, but does your spouse know how to do that? And in the case where I was just using the generator off the motorhome, so it was like walk in, open up the door, walk in, hit the panel start button, and off you go. And so it just varies from your situation. So look at the big picture and go from there.
Yep. All right. Well, we got some questions here that came in. I'm glad I was able to move them over. Hopefully, you should be able to read them fine. Well, I'll work on getting the comments sorted out. They were coming in black ink, and the black on black just did not work. But I can see there's a lot of great activity in the chat today. So I appreciate everybody coming by. If you're new, welcome. We were talking a little bit about spring projects, and Steve went through a long list of things to think about. But we will add in some of your comments, too. I know a lot of people are doing a lot of work this time of year, and it's just fun to get outside, fresh air, and get in there and see what you got going on with your antenna system. So important. Don't we take it for granted? We get all this hot. We get so juiced up on the radios that sometimes we forget about taking care of our antennas. Yeah, we got it. Mm-hmm. Okay, let's see. We got a question. I think we can figure this one out here, Steve. If I have a solid-state radio, do I need to use a solid-state amplifier? Now, before anybody gets any chuckles, let's not chuckle, right? Let's think about when we first started out in amateur radio, and some of these things are kind of, you want other people have things. You want this radio, you like that old radio, is it going to pair up with a new deal? So this question is a fair question as far as I'm concerned, and we'll answer it like we should. So, Steve, solid-state radio, that's kind of the norm now in the 21st century. Most people, most things that you find new, but there's some beautiful old amplifiers out there with tubes. Some of them are solid-state. Can we mix and match, and how does that work?
Yes. We do it. A lot of us do it already. And so, in fact, my radios are solid state. My current amplifier has a tube. So it's not a problem. The biggest issue is going to be the vintage of the amplifier and the keying voltage. So there is some older amplifiers that have a high voltage on the keying line, even though you're providing basically a switch to ground when you key your radio. The radio provides that. The problem becomes is that the solid state radio cannot handle 160 volts that could be sitting on your keying line. It's only designed for 12 volts. So depending on the amplifier you're using, you might have to have a keying buffer. MFJ makes that device, and there are probably a few others, but that's on a case-by-case basis. But as far as the general question goes, you don't have to have a solid-state amplifier with your solid-state radio.
And that's that question, just adding on a little bit to it. Some of these newer amplifiers, like the one I have down here, there's certain connections that need to be made. I think there's a lot of unknown stuff. It's something maybe we should explore together on the show with amplifiers, because I remember having an Ameritron, and blowing a tube and being scared to death. And I think that's actually good, being a newer ham who's not extremely technical at all. I'm used to being on this side of the microphone. I was really nervous about getting in there because you hear stories, just common by the way stories, like don't stick your hand in there, you end up dead type of stories. And all that's true, but there's not a lot of teaching in that. The lesson is don't do that. So there was a lot of fear for me in the early days when if I had a bad tube, just getting in there and working with it. So we probably need to educate more, especially our newer hams and maybe some that are somewhere in the middle or further along, how we deal with amplifiers,
Yeah, well, especially as more and more solid state amplifiers are hitting the market, and they're there, but once the price starts coming down, as more people buy it, and and when we get back to Hamfest, you're going to see older amplifiers like the 811s or the Heathkit SB200s that are going to be out on that table, and you're going to go, I want a 600 watt amplifier, and boom, you're going to bring it home, and it's like, now what do I do?
Right.
Or if you need to replace tubes down the road, they say if I put my fingers in here, I'll die, and or could die, and things. So we need to, that's a great topic to talk about safety. I mean, we used to back in the day, that was the norm because a lot of our equipment, even the radios, weren't solid state. They were, tube based, so we were dealing with a lot of high voltage. And but nowadays, our radios run on 12 volts.
Yeah. All right. So we'll put it on the list of things to talk about. Thank you for that question. Ian has a question. New to the channel, but do you host or do any kind of swap meet style shows? Now, I thought that was interesting. That's interesting.
Yeah.
I don't do a lot of, or any, sales become really tricky. Like, we don't even do sales on the Facebook page because I can't really, and it's not a control thing, but I don't want to be responsible for the clunkers or a bad swap or a bad trade. It may be neat to kind of host a show type of thing here where we could bring people in who had things that they wanted to trade. But I think it becomes like, I think swapping maybe is easy. Have you ever been to a swap meet? You've been to a swap meet. I've only heard of them.
Yeah.
Is that like a straight trade?
It depends. I mean, we have the swapping shops on HF, at least up here in the Pacific Northwest. Yeah. But guys basically check into a net control, and then they give them, okay, this is what I have to offer, and then and then the net control turns around throughout the course of the swapping shop will basically lists the item, and then if anybody has an interest, then they'll read it back, and then they'll go and pass a phone number, and then the two parties end up going off to the side and working out a deal. So I could see us being kind of in the middle, and so hey, I got a let's say this is easy right in front of me. Look, I got this cable.
I want it.
A microphone cable. Okay. Yeah, and this is how it looks, and it goes for a Yaesu, and it plugs in. This is a XLR connector, so we can and I want say $25 brand new. It's I don't know, $40 or whatever. So something like that could be done. Email me at my QRZ.
So we just bring them in, they show their stuff, and then if people want to do it, the trick of it is just to make sure everything is fair, because it's hard for us to do quality control, and then you get upset with us that you got a clinker.
Right.
But I do like the idea.
Well, we just use the standard warranty, 30 feet or 30 seconds, whichever occurs first.
Yeah, and the honor system, right? The honor system among hams. But it's a good, interesting concept there, Ian. We'll give us some more thought there. That could be fun. Okay, we got another one here. Let's see what this is. Can you talk about setting up the shack for battery and solar power, the pros and cons? And now this is just off of the Hour 73 segment where we talked about battery power or some kind of generator type power. There are some issues with solar powers and panels like that. What do you think when somebody wants to set up? Clearly, this could be the MCOM situation where you're thinking about just topping off your battery. Thoughts about this, Steve?
Probably the one thing that really pops into my mind when it comes to solar systems is your charger controller. I'm not really familiar with solar systems, what it is, and the inverter, the device that's going to take. So the solar panels are going to provide a DC, and if you're going to just use it to charge batteries and strictly that, and then you're going to use 12 volts or off the batteries for your equipment, then you don't have a charger or a convert. But there is a charger still involved to maintain the current and for the batteries. The problem becomes when you get into 120 volts with an inverter, whether it's going to create RF hash onto your radio. Basically, first you're going to have it on the line because it's maybe not a pure sine wave, as Don brought up earlier, and then also a cheaper solar charger or controller might radiate an RF hash that could just tear up your radio. Then it's like, well, now what am I? So it's like I can only get on the radio during the night, because during the day I just get this 10 over S9 hash on all the bands. Well, that could be your solar charger.
The inverter has been my issue. With the old wooden shack, people who have been around the show for a while know that I have an old wooden shack. It's at the edge of the woods. It's not the Love Shack, but it's a wooden old wooden shed, and I'll take solar out there to top off a battery. It's that inverter when I want to do something like plug in my computer for, say, logging. Man, that inverter will just eat me up. And it's less about at that rate, because I can do 120, 120, I could do 60 with the solar panel, topping off my battery. But as soon as I use a battery with some sort of inverter to a computer or the radio, it just screams. And I'm just like, you know what? I'll hand log it. The heck with it. But those inverters get me. And maybe the pure, like you said, the pure sine wave, at least you get a cleaner signal.
So there's a lot of little, gotchas that could get you. And so it's the other option is just try it and work through it, and then come up with what will work for you. But it shouldn't be that hard. I mean, it just depends on it comes down to your requirements, what you want to accomplish, and then this is what I got, and then make it work.
Yep, this is one we can talk about in that emergency type of situation where you're battery powered. And I just look at batteries mostly as something I need to top off with my solar, not necessarily everything in line running constantly. If I have to swap out a fresh battery for my radio, then that's kind of how I work my situation. But yeah, the electronics can be a little iffy. All right.
Exactly.
Last one for today. We ran a little longer than normal, but that's okay. We got a good marriage story,
Yeah.
Rosa is the perfect woman. I'm just going to go ahead and say that. She's perfect. You say that to every woman, by the way.
Exactly.
You need to know that.
And remember, happy wife, happy life.
That's right. Why does rain seem to affect my SWR in a bad way? What is it about being out in the rain and having all those elements and different things? It could be snow, it could be any moisture raises. Any thoughts on SWR during wet conditions?
Oh, it's a lot will depend on the antenna, and it's going to change the conductivity. Off the top of my head, on a dipole, are you using a really good insulator, or at the end of the wire? Or you just tie your rope to the end of your wire and just kind of, that's just nylon rope is an insulator. Well, it starts to conduct, and it could have an effect, essentially lengthening your antenna. On a beam, it could be that the center point of your dipole, it could have that water on there could be given a little bit of a path for the RF to go to ground and kind of change a little bit of the impedance. It all depends on the antenna. It is probably the biggest factor I'm looking at. And then and then try to mitigate it from there. So but yeah, I've seen it. I've seen it with the beam and stuff. And if you got a bunch of grime and dirt, I know in the power world, we talk about cleaning insulators, because it starts to, when you start having a dirt buildup and then the water, it starts conducting, and it'll start arcing across the insulator. And but it's the same effect. I feel is with the antenna system. So yeah, it could be a number of factors, and your antenna system layout and setup is why your SWR is getting changed with rain and snow and ice.
Yep. Well, thank you for the question. All right, there you go. Well, I think we fooled him again, Steve. Thanks for everybody who stopped by today, and will watch this later. If you're new to the channel, poke around a little bit. Subscribe if you like, and check out the playlist.
Oh, nice, Mark. Well, we have a comment from Mark H. So basically, we are saying Rosa is the 100 watts in a wire Betty White.
Yeah, I think we need to do more with her alone. Marty seemed a little too talkative, and didn't give the lady. It's all about the ladies. This show is about the ladies. Ladies friendly.
Marty, it's about Rosa.
Yeah, it's about Rosa. Just button it up. Talk less, Marty. Just kidding. He'll get in there and start burying me in the chat. He's too, and I can't even get to the chat. Like, I can't even defend myself. Don't do it, Marty. But thanks to Rosa and to Marty, and of course to Don and Karen and Paul. It was good. We did okay today. I wish I could. I'll figure out the comments for next week, trying to be able to see them. We'll get there. It'll be fine. It'll be much better too. But appreciate your patience. That's the one beautiful thing, is when I get to beat myself up over something stupid. It's like we're hams. Like, we listen through garbage audio, and I hate garbage audio, but the things that we hear on the air is like, and so we're kind of wired, if you will, to deal with the little things. So I try to keep them as little as possible, but this was good. I think it was better. All right, Steve. Well, thank you, sir. We'll wrap it up. We got into another long one today. We got long, but it was
awesome.
It was fun, and we didn't do the meet and greet. Meet and greet will probably be on at least a hiatus, until I can get myself more familiar with all the proper signal flow here, which shouldn't take us too long, but we'll get it back up, and then we'll make that a special thing. But it requires a little more prep time, so we didn't want to screw everything up. Just a little bit of stuff. Just screw up less. All right, buddy. Well, 7-3, man. Y'all take care of yourselves and be good. Go ahead. Do your thing.
Have a great weekend, everybody. Thank you for being with us today. We really appreciate it.
All right. And I'll bring it back over here. It might be a little easier. My thanks to Steve and everybody who came by. Take care of yourselves. Look out for each other. And by all means, if you can, please try and stay above the noise. We'll see you tomorrow night for our net on probably 40, 20, and 80 meters. 7-3, guys.
To join the 100 Watts in a Wire community, visit 100wattsinawire.com.